Gefrin. Ad Gefrin, the place of Gefrin, the settlement of kings. There's so much history here, and then if you read the Bernard Cornwall books, the Uhtred of Bevenberg, look, there's Paulinus referenced here. He's a real person. And then there's the river just around the corner where the baptism was, and then whoosh, up there is Yeavering and the hill fort and the war settlement, and then the other side of this wall is the actual settlement, the place of kings, where the amphitheatre that's at Jarrow Hall was found, the archaeological remnants of the amphitheatre, and just everything around here. It's the seat of power of the north of England, and the real seat of power of England before the Normans got involved. It's amazing. It's right by the side of a road as well. You'd never know it. You can literally just drive straight up and walk through these lovely gates that are all crafted and designed and really rather beautiful out onto the field.
Welcome back for another Wyld walk, everybody, and this month we're at Yeavering. Old Yeavering, Ad Gefrin, Kirk Newton and other locations, and we're even digging up history on the legendary King Arthur. That's right, there might be an actual plausible link to the legend of King Arthur and this beautiful part of Northumberland. Instead of walking from Yeavering, Old Yeavering, up and on to Yeavering Bell, we're going to go out the back way and see if we can't find a nice little waterfall on the walk. Yeah, and if this is meant to be promoting sort of sensible, responsible tourism, if you guys are coming out to visit any of these places, there's only space for like 3 cars at Old Yeavering. By the time you get along to sort of Hethpool and places like that, it's a little bit easier to park because there's a massive flat car park, and then all the footpaths are weight marked out of there. So we're going to go and have a look at a slightly different route up Yeavering. We're going to Hethpool Lynn on the way up, which is supposed to be really pretty. I've not been. And we're going to go up onto Yeavering Bell and look down on the top of the site. The only downside is it's Northumberland, it's March, and it's windy as hell. So we might just have to have a lot of nice pretty background music and sweeping visual shots rather than actual sound and us talking, which I'm sure you won't mind. Problem is, if we were to do a bit of Hollywood magic and shoot a voiceover and lay it over, that would mean having an actual script so that we can remember what we say, and we don't. We do have a map this time, and we do know roughly where we're going, which is an improvement on normal. So yeah, it's time to sort of go off and have an explore, but if it does go a bit light on the sound, it's because of the wind, and we still don't have, I mean, for all that we've got a wind baffle on the mic, it's just not that good. God, this looks hardcore. Yeah, it looks like Everest base camp thing with the hoodie up and everything. It's just windy. It's windy and cold. It's windy and cold. No, it's not cold, it's just cold wind on the back of the ears as you're walking. That's why we've got hoods and hats on. Right, it's beautiful. It's a lovely day. This is the back end of College Valley, and we're just below Hethpool. We're heading back up towards Hethpool and Hethpool House, where Admiral Lord Collingwood's niece, came up and lived for many years. So all the trees on this hill up here are Collingwood oaks. They were all planted by the Admiralty on visits to Collingwood's house up here, and you can see the house as we go around the corner. But that's where we're going. That one there. That's Yeavering, and if we can manage to get the video to zoom in a sec, you can actually make out the wall on the summit already. And then we've got Easter Tor, Wester Tor, Hello, all around here. Big impressive hills, you know. And really, for all that we're walking through a little village, it feels quite wild. So let's go see what we can find. Camera and sound support there. I haven't told her about the big hill we're going up. That's the next bit. Should probably help, but it's much funnier. There you go. Access land, public footpath, oak trees, gorse all around us. This amazing steep-sided canyonnated little gorge section with the water running out the bottom. It's really beautiful. Let's go down and have a look. Now, if you are ever out and about in early spring or summer, or even not, you need to watch out for these little guys. They're absolutely everywhere. And they blend in really well. And he's just chilling on the side here, so it's not just in big pools of stagnant water. Look how gorgeous this is. It's peaceful. I love the sound of running water. Yeah. Little ducks down at the bottom bobbing around. And just everywhere this fresh start of green coming out on everything. Spring's on its way, the gorse is flowering, the sun's warm, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's well worth that 15-20 minutes out of the car park just for this. I mean, look at it. Looks like something out of an Arthurian legend. Which is strange. There's actually an Arthurian legend attached to this place. As you climb out of Hethpool Gorge and around by the Lynn, you come up on a much easier walking, which is just Cuthbert's Way. And it's just all the way, although some new fencing has gone in and altered it slightly to what it says on the map, but not massively. Just follow the signs, you'll be absolutely grand. It brings you up in between all these incredible hills. It really is an amazing place, Cuthbert. As you approach up Cuthbert's Way, which is just over my shoulder here, it runs up the hill and you go through what's marked on the map as an enclosure. There's this modern sort of sheepfold building. I say modern, but you know. But then behind it, this very defined ridge and bank of stone all the way around. Everywhere you look, rows and rows and rows of stone and earthwork. There's no archaeological writing on this at all. There's nothing saying what it might be. There's nothing to suggest what it was here, but there's evidence of sort of round buildings, maybe, and stone rows and squares and blocks. This is the borders. Scotland is just over there, there's a peel tower down in that collection of houses behind me over here. This was obviously a very fought over place. The summit of every single hill has a hill fort on it, or an enclosed settlement, the largest being on the top of Yeavering Bell. But is this something significant? Is it something to do with Cuthbert and just not recorded? Or was it literally a settlement between places, overlooked by two great hills behind? You'll have to come and find out for yourselves. Pass it back to the DOP. Sound. Now let's get up this hill. Place being called the Hill of the Goats. Yeavering, Bell, Yeavering, place of the Goats in all hills apparently. Been looking for them for a bloody hour. Thanks. Wyld, Cheviot goats that lent their name to this place those ages back. The bridge must have changed by all accounts. Check these buttons out. So we've seen two of the billies, and now there's a nanny goat down there with two kids. Little tiny black and white one. White one. Now it is worth noting that they are wild, so you don't want to pester them, especially not the billies. They're big lads, you really don't want to upset them. You do want to respect the fact that they are wild animals. Enjoy them from a distance, but leave them well enough alone. That's really wonderful. Right. So the sun came out and we got out the wind a little bit. It's actually really rather beautiful. It's definitely a nice early spring day, so we thought we'd stop. Have a snack. If you're ever in the Waller Valley, anyway, like that, you can find the freezing water. They're locally made. It's really, really good. Ross Castle, the hanging valley out the back of Waller, which means King's Chairs over there. We're over there somewhere. Cheviot, Scotland. List of walls. Check these out. One's 4 meters high and just as thick. Quite a feat to build them up here. you can just see here, look, the ring outline. So if I walk in, stand in the middle. The house is occupied over 1,000 years ago. Right where people were living. Or Oswald king. The boat been out of the wow. I mean, it's bleak up here. I'm in a desperate attempt to get out the wind ever so slightly. Can't imagine how hard it must have been to live up here. 130 dwellings right here in all weathers. And we can see the rain coming now. It's time to get down off this hill, I think. It's bleak. Stunningly beautiful. You can see for miles all the way to the sea. Down there you might just be able to see the little tin building. That's Mailman Airfield. My Millfield and Mailman, the heritage site, the henge sites. They were all in the valley down here. And then Yeavering, the place of the kings, straight below us. It's incredible. I think we better get down before we get wet. Baby, come on. She's making this look a lot harder than it is. Sunshine and rainbows. It does make it look wild. Not much fun for filming and no. Should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you're coming to Northumberland, be prepared for every weather. It was beautiful when we set off. It's still sunny, but it's freezing cold and raining now. We've had a fairly heavy downpour, and it's literally just passed through, and as quickly as it came, it's more or less gone. Now it's just drizzling. We didn't have windproofs and waterproofs with us. The next mile or so, very cold indeed.
this here. This piece, that is the remains of Peel Tower. Around about the 1600s. The right there is the Upholton House. And way off in the distance over there. Gefrin and Yeavering.
Woo! So that's back at the car. And a hot brew. Yeah, the weather was interesting.
Bit blowy.
We don't normally do the review bit in the car. We don't normally need to. We can normally find somewhere out the wind. I don't know if you can see.
Look how fat my chin looks at this angle.
Oh, sweetie, it's not that angle. I don't know if you can see, but like where we've got our coffees and stuff, they're actually, like, if you sit really still, every now and then the coffees are actually rocking from side to side because the wind is shaking the car. I think it's just always windy on this side. I don't know. But the walk out was lovely.
It was.
This is not a beginner's day out in the hills.
No, it is not.
You know, it's an easy walk, but the path itself is not brilliantly maintained in places, which for Cuthbert's Way I'm very disappointed with.
Yeah, usually. Although it looks like they've
It looks like they've put new fences in for something
Yeah.
and just basically gone and moved some of the guide signs. So I think later in the year it'll be fine. At the moment it's very wet underfoot, very slippy. I turned an ankle coming down on one section and nearly fell in the river trying to get some video, so it is a bit... It's a bit more challenging. I think everything around Wooler in the last episode is totally doable for pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
You know, King's Seat and Pinwell and everything, they're totally
Cuthbert's
accessible.
Cave and everything from the car park as well. It's 10 minutes in.
Cuthbert's is a hill up, but it's not a difficult walk.
It's not
So
a
again,
difficult one.
everything that's in episode 1 is really accessible. If you haven't seen that vid already, there'll be a link hovering around up here somewhere for it. And give that a watch, because if you do walks similar to that and think you fancy something a bit more of a challenge, you can try this one out. It's a good sized car park. It's a well marked path all the way.
Just don't bother the goat.
I don't think anyone will have a problem wayfinding that. We took a map.
Yeah, but it's very well
In
marked.
case, because notoriously footpaths move
There's-
and change.
Yeah. They have footpath markers, they have the
fine.
St Cuthbert's Way markers, and they have the Hill Fort Walk markers as well. So
And they had a really, really helpful gamekeeper, or ghillie. Because as we were
they did.
coming down the stream looking for goats, the goats of Yeavering, the wild goats of Yeavering, we'd found a couple at the top. Couldn't really get close enough to film them.
Yeah.
They are wild, and you don't want to leave them alone. They are wild. And we went, okay, well, maybe we'll find some lower down because this is the sort of the shelter from the wind. We came across 2 big black billy goats.
yeah, we did.
And then as I was climbing back up, this bloke in full camo with a rifle strapped to the front of his quad bike and everything appeared and went, "You lost?" Like, no, I've got a map. I know exactly where I am. Sure. So no, we're shooting a video for YouTube and just trying to find the Yeavering goats. And he went, "Oh well, there's a nanny goat down there with 2 kids." So we ran round the corner and shot them.
Yeah.
Not shot them.
Not shot them.
We ran round the corner and got them for camera as well, because
Not great pictures because
you might not always see them. You might not always see them if you do come up here, but they are sort of an iconic thing, the Cheviot goats.
They're so tiny.
They're gorgeous
They're
little
gorgeous
creatures,
little
but they
ones.
are wild, people. I
Yeah.
can't stress this
Yeah,
enough.
they are.
They're not dangerous unless you get too near to them, and they've
Yeah,
got
the billy goats
kids
have some
just-
kicking horns
Oh,
on
they've
them.
got
You
big
do not
horns.
want to
Yeah.
get. We're not talking cute little goaty horns. We're talking like huge, will pierce you
big
horns.
ones. Will you not swear in my videos?
Why? You just told me before. You're not monetized anyway.
True.
First, it's not in the first 30 seconds of the video. YouTube only double check the first 30 seconds.
True.
No, it has
Good.
to be infrequent.
That is infrequent.
Okay.
So yeah, they are wild. So, like, leave them well enough alone, give them their space. They are wild animals. That said, they aren't too bothered by people.
They're not too fussed, but still.
Don't piss off the goats. They've got big horns.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the real problem with Yeavering as a site for scale is it is just so massive. What we could really like do with is, I don't know, like earth poles or anchor poles or something to put in the ground and mark up, or like a dozen more bodies or something, because it is just such a massive site. You just don't get an appreciation of how big it is. So we could do like, you know, another maybe 3 or 4 people just to go and stand at points in the field and say, this is where we... Oh, I know. Hello, guys.
Hi, guys.
Not set up at all. It's Life with Betty Boondocker.
Oh, yeah.
So the plan is to go and have a bit of a look round. You know what?
Can we chuck in some Bear Grylls music when you're doing it?
Shall we just get in the van and talk in there? So this is
got a bit more room.
totally, I promise, not set up at all. Not in the slightest. It's complete coincidence that they turn up at literally the biggest arse end of nowhere in Northumberland. But what the guys have done is basically they've moved into their van full time, and they're now travelling around the UK. We got a phone call and they said, look, we're up. We'd like to come and go to some of the historical sites, and can we meet you and go somewhere cool? And I went, well, yeah, I've got a few places. And then they went and stayed at Bamborough last night.
We basically managed to wangle a free guided tour.
This is why I'm doing these videos.
It helps
really
to know people.
This is honestly why I'm doing these videos, because you know, you'd drive up to this site and you'd literally just drive past it.
Because I think it doesn't look like anything.
No, it's a field.
It's the most interesting field I've ever stood in.
And,
it is.
And you've stood in a lot of fields, I know. But this is what I mean.
Mainly after sheep.
There's so much more to a place to look at, because if you just look at it here, it is a flat field. But if you can walk into it and, like, as you'll see when we go and stand on the corners and actually scale it for people, it's massive. I've got to say, guys, it's
not bad for a bit of old pallet wood, is it?
It's a lovely setup.
I'm
just being able to have a brew anyway. I missed that.
Yeah, really hard on the muscles.
Can I just dive between your legs?
It's I can do it all.
Didn't realise it was going to be that sort of crossover episode. My God. Well, this is it. The whole valley. Like when you think that on the top of the hill up there might have been a hill fort. Right, again, classicists always, anything that's got a ring of stones or a bank around it. Yeah, more or less. So, like...
Oh, me and Kayla must have walked through the hole then.
Yeah, you did, straight down the middle of it. So, like, St. Oswald, you know, the kids' hospice, St. Oswald's hospice and all of that, that's him, the king. You've just walked through where he used to live.
Ah.
And you wouldn't know it because there's nothing there.
There's nothing here, but you know... You can feel that something's been here, can't you?
Yeah. At historical sites, a lot of them you can't dig on because they're scheduled ancient monuments. Like here, it's a scheduled site, so you can't just come and dig on it. And there's a Roman fort over in the Tyne Valley called Epiarchum. This is where I learnt this. Moles, right? Moles dig about 5 or 6 inches down under the surface in this massive network. So whenever you're on an archaeological site that might have Bronze Age, Iron Age, Roman, Viking, you're not allowed to dig, but you can check molehills because the moles will dig up for like 5 to 6 inches down, which is into the historical layer, and throw it back. So it's always worth checking over. If you do find anything, you can't pocket it and walk off because it is off a scheduled site. You have to go to the museum's fund or the treasure trove and tell them. But like, it's always worth.
It's still nice to just find something.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always hoping for the day that I find like one of the coins, because Oswald started minting money and coining. So I always kind of hope I'm going to turn over something that could plausibly be an Anglo-Saxon coin in an episode.
You never know.
If I don't, by series 3, I'm just going to go and find one. And
I think you found a sheep turd there.
Possible. It happens.
Better than nothing.
But again, with the Epiarchum site over in the Tyne Valley, they did a scheduled dig and they found a bathhouse and a little gold dolphin and all sorts of stuff like this. And then about 3 months later, Oh no, sorry, they found the dolphin by doing the molehill surveys.
Yeah.
They just literally panned it out and there was this Roman bronze
Oh,
or gold
wow.
dolphin. But they found an earring in one of the digs that matches one that was at Stonehenge. So this is by Alston, and it matches the gold earring they found in the burial at Stonehenge.
Thing is, they bring in the youth.
But it was found by a
the
12-year-old
young
kid.
Yeah, they bring in the young archaeologist.
Not a professional
community to do
archaeologist, it was found by a 12-year-old
I think
kid.
she was about 8 or something. You said even younger.
Yeah, but they
One of the
found it-
greatest historical finds ever
Because
up there. Was
it
Native
ties in.
Orchid.
Yeah, it ties in the whole valley, because it means that the gold mine that they know the gold came from was the other side of the Tyne Valley.
Yeah.
The earrings must have been made there because it is an identical one, so it is the matching set. So they were mass producing or they were making sets of. And one made it all the way down to Salisbury to Stonehenge and cropped up in a grave burial down there. So it
Do you think
pushed
it was probably used as currency instead
trading,
of actually
yeah,
wearing it?
Yeah, it could be. Or, you know, in the way of like some cultures in sort of Africa and things like that, you wear your wealth.
Yeah.
You carry your jewellery with you. Pirates used to do it with the gold earring to pay for the funeral. You know, all this sort of stuff. So the chances of finding something, let us say, are really, really slim. But like Anglo-Saxon and Roman sites, jet beads, amber beads, little tiny things get thrown up all the time. You know, if you go to any Roman sites and kick over a molehill, you'll always find great big chunks of bright orange pot.
Oh.
If they're glazed on one side and unglazed on the other, they're Roman, they're Samian ware. But it's so common, it's like brick rubble in an industrial building site.
Yeah.
You know. But you will find, like, occasionally you will find stuff. It's just...
Have you ever found anything then?
Yeah, at Epiarchum,
have?
yeah, I found tons. I found a piece of blackware pottery at Epiarchum. And we were talking to the archaeologist on site and he's like, we've never found a piece like this in Allendale Valley. This doesn't exist. We didn't think they were making it here, and we've now found a piece.
Now you've rewritten the history.
And it was like this thick. And initially, I was panning away, and I just went, nah. And as I threw it, I saw a cross-hatched design on it. Like literally, it just caught in the light. And I went, oh, fuck.
I had to find it again.
Picked it up, dusted it off, and called the archaeologist over. And like 9 times out of 10, it's nothing.
Yeah.
But I just thought this, I don't know, it had a curve on it, it looked about right, you know, I think I found something, is this anything? And he like, gave it a bit of like dust off and he went, oh wow, yes! Don't know if this is going to work with the wind, because in typical Northumbrian fashion, it's blowing an absolute gale. But what we're going to try and do is just give a sense of scale of the place, because the hills make it look a lot smaller than it is. It's a huge field, and in context of 6th and 7th century buildings, this site was absolutely massive. When everybody else was living in small, round, enclosed, fortified villages and burhs, this field had no walls around it, had a great enclosure at the far end, and then this massive royal palace slap bang in the middle, like on each corner of the main royal enclosure. So the royal house, the cattle enclosure, and then the royal hall. Because if you've seen the one at Thurlings, right, at Beadsworth, that little threshing barn thing. If you take the scale of that and put it in this place, it's insane.
Right.
It's massive. You walked right through it on the way in, didn't you?
Yeah.
Let's go have a look. And then we'll do like a silly Benny Hill time lapse of running out to where we're going. And we'll have to put Birdie on the corner of the Royal Lodge where they would have kept the hunting dogs. So you can take them and stand where the dog enclosure was. So, this site, if you rotate it like see just that little ridge in front of it. Yeah, over here. Without the proper aerials, it's a bit difficult, we're guessing. About here, this is one corner of the royal residence. This is this bit here. So incredibly hard to guess at the scale of it without the archaeological drawings and the aerial photographs when you're actually on the ground, because all that's left are these little lumps and bumps on the ground. But when you consider a building of that scale and magnitude compared to what would have been in the rest of the valley at that time, what a place, battered by wind and lashed by the weather. Here, bugger this, shall we get a cup of tea? Oh. So after a cup of tea, love vans for cups of tea, it's so useful. Honestly, if you guys want to come on every episode and just be like production based, because we've had that cup of tea, and then literally right there, that's where I was on Old Yeavering when I ran up to the stone ring. That's Yeavering Bell. So I could have sat here and had a cup of tea and then gone up. Guys, it's a lovely setup you've got here. We'll need to, you know, and thank you so much for the brew. I think we should go and have a look at Kirk Newton now. Oh. I would love to have spent longer here at Yeavering, but the problem is, in Old Yeavering, the problem is the wind today is really, really intense, and it's making it practically impossible to film in the field because we can't get sound, even with a very high budget dead kitten. We can't get sound. The weather is turning and dark clouds are rolling down the valley. There's a tiny child with them, and there's, with the wind blowing as hard as it is, there's only so much you can see in the field here. But I have heard rumours there's a stone circle up north of Kirk Newton. So I think we might try and find that. So Kirk Newton, it's never a place I've been before. There's the church that side, and as we drove in I looked and went, oh, there's an old ridge barn. It's not an old ridge barn, it's a very new ridge barn. It's Cheviot View Outdoor Centre and a girl guiding place that's been built. All these ridge barns and bunks. So there's obviously more in Kirk Newton than first meets the eye. There's always one of my dad's things. Walking around churchyards looking at gravestones. But it doesn't say where she's buried, it just says in the churchyard. So we're going to have to keep looking. Daughter of...
The inscription's on the sign in front of you.
Is it?
Yeah.
There you go. Canon of Winchester Cathedral. So, as a weird possible thought, before she was a butler, if she was a grey,
Yeah.
the greys in Northumberland Valley have been like really, really influential. In fact, one of the Lady Greys was married to a Cromwell, and you know Chillingham Castle? That was the house of the Greys.
It was.
Way back when. What if, I mean theoretically she is, because if George Butler, Canon of Winchester Cathedral, you don't marry into that unless you're already society in the 1800s. So if she married into society, she might actually be related to the Greys of what was formerly Chillingham Castle when it was taken off them in the Reform,
Yes.
which means that the current, or the most previous Lady Grey
Yeah.
was a great grandmother of Josephine.
Yes. Potentially.
Maybe.
We can check back on that.
More research required. Again.
It'll keep you out of mischief.
I bloody won't. So this church, the kirk, apparently is 12th century or earlier. And just looking at the architecture of the building, seems about right to me. The building, which is squat, square, and then the next section is grander and taller, and then the far end is the most modern. So I think what we need to do is get inside out of this weather and go and find a very special stone carving. Seem to be spending a disproportionate amount of time in churches the further into the 14th and 15th century we push in this series. But this part of St Gregory's, this is 15th century. So this is the masonry here originally is 1400s. So it's been here for like 650 years. And okay, it's a new floor, and the windows are obviously modern, or more modern, but the actual space itself, where they put the little sconces in it, it feels not as old really as old Buick Church, but it definitely, the two parts that are the 15th century masonry definitely feel much older. And just in this corner here, hiding away, right out of the way, there's a little illuminated image. I'm sure I've seen before, medieval style illuminated image of St Gregory the Great, which the church is named after. It actually makes almost less sense in the light, but this is 15th century plate armour depicted here. I don't know if they're made. It's set into the floor. There's nothing written like this. This is set into the floor of the wall and set here. This pin, that pin, there and there. All of these would have been recessed. These have been brasses in the top. So these would have been decorative metal plates in here. So unless they're renovating it or something bizarre, it looks like it's been painted at one point. Coloured, but this here, look, he's got his folds, greaves, rebrace, elbow, chain coif on his neck. So he's wearing full armour, and his lady beside him's in the full headdress and bunches, both on pillows.
See, that there, to me, that resembles the shape of a human skull.
Yeah. She would have been wearing the head fold, so her head would probably be about that size. Like her face would be about that size, and then that's the medieval clump headdress over the top. And obviously the folded hands, very pious and the rest. The thing is, there's no history on it, on any of the information on the sites or on any of the information about the church. When I first came in, I thought it was just leaning up on the side, like somebody was renovating it or making a new one with chalk marks. But they're not.
God, I recognise that.
It's Latin all the way around it. There's no dating on it that I can see. Something and hands. I can't. And something in light. Condos, lure, something light. Can't make it out at all, but it looks like it's been painted and coloured, and somebody's nicked the brasses off it. Upon closer inspection, there is information about that stone, but I was so distracted by it I wasn't looking properly. It's in the corner over here. This is the Burrell Chapel, and it says that it's named after an influential local family. Just going to borrow that. So this here, the guy on the left, is Andreas Burrell with his wife, who isn't named. So we're going to assume she is Mrs. Burrell. Spaces where there must have been insets of bronze of their faces and hands clasped in prayer. This chapel bit is late 15th century, similar to the main chancel over there. So these two bits of building are 15th century. So we're talking 1400s, and the Burrells, I'm sure there was a Thomas Burrell involved with Harry Hotspur at Homildon. So we might have to come back here next episode when we go and look at Homildon in some more depth after Bamburgh. Because if the Burrells link through, then this is their memorial stone. So somewhere in this chapel, Andreas Burrell is buried, 15th century Andreas Burrell. So he might have been one of the guys that fell at the Battle of Millfield in 1403. So this carving is said to show the Magi in kilts, but they're probably more likely Roman tunics. The ancient stone relief is a great treasure of the church, and it's at least 12th century, and it could even be earlier. The style of the Magi caps is similar to an example found in the Roman catacombs, so there could be the influence of Saint Paulinus, who was Roman, and that would date the carving several centuries earlier and predating the church by a couple of 100 years. Look at this. The incumbents are searching for, I don't know if these are accurate, but Ulfgil, 1116, that's a Norse name, or an Anglo-Saxon name. Stephen, or Stefan. Hugh de St. Oswald, you'll like this one. Peter de Wetwang. Philippus, John Gray, all the way through here. 1360 Hayton. I know that name from over. Thomas de Ingleby. He crops up over at Alnwick. George Ogle, as in the Ogle family that were caught up with Edlingham, that were caught up with the Fenwicks, and Thomas Ogle and what was his name? The outlaw, William.
Is it William? William Ogle? Is it Bill Ogle? I don't know.
But that's at the period, so this would have been the valley where they came out and killed in the church of his father. In the church of his father, they came up and they refused to pay the diocese fee. In a cornfield, they murdered the priest that came to take the tithe in the church of his father. So somewhere in this valley is where John Ogle and the rest of William Lyle's bandits came up to in retreat. All the way back, the three that were hanged, drawn and quartered at Newcastle Keep. So that is George Ogle's 1669. That's about the right time, I think, off the top of my head, that all links in. So that would be a project that we worked on
a long time ago.
3 or 4 years ago with the characters.
Ago.
And now we've found potentially where they came to in this lovely little crazy mad church up in the middle of nowhere. There's loads of books. There's a bookshop in there. So in the great tradition of heathens with Christian churches in this valley and this area, I'm taking some books.
We did actually pay for those.
So this, here in the car park just beside St Gregory's Church, this is put together by the Northumberland Dark Skies Park that's based out of Kielder Observatory. They've got a little stargazing thing, and if you watch the other videos on my channel, I've been studying star navigation and talking about learning to find south with Orion and other wild signs, and then we've pulled into a car park and found this, telling you how you would find north at the exact times from where you're stood right now, because apparently this and just into Wooler is right on the edge of Northumberland International Park, which is all dark skies now. And if you're interested, you can go to northumberland.com/dark skies to find out more about the project, and you really do get some of the most incredible views of the stars and even the northern lights up here. Not on a day like this though. Next village up, West Newton. There's a stone circle above it. The problem is we brought a map this time, and guess what?
It's not marked.
Well, it probably is. That's Kirk Newton, that's where we are right now.
Yeah.
Stone circle's there.
Ah.
Yeah. It's just the other side of the bell, I remember from looking on the maps. The problem is, the bloody map runs out right on the head of where we need to go. Arse.
Wipes.
I don't know why we bothered bringing a map. Needed it last time. Now when we don't necessarily need it, we haven't got a bloody thing, have we? Oh, there's another battle stone in the field. Earthworks everywhere, earthworks everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. Look at this. Just look at it. Look at these banks running out either side. Big step, big step, big step, big step. All the way up, and it's not just here. These trees all along here, they were planted to ensure that the Royal Navy would always have oak trees. You know, a lot of old oaks that are still standing down near London and around there, they're known as the Admiral, the tree, or there are pubs called the Admiral and they've got an oak tree on the sign, because the Admiralty, when they retired, were given a walking stick and a handful of acorns to plant trees to ensure that the Royal Navy would continue with all its power and all its might forever and ever and ever, amen. And there's this whole woodland of Collingwood oaks right on the side of the top end of the Yeavering Valley. So here we are. It's a set of wood in the intro episode. What? back at Mailman, or Millfield. And this is the modern recreation of a henge site that was discovered over by the airfield over here. Millfield Airfield has some interesting history as well, because during the war it was set up as a pilot training school. And they used to train there for about 9 weeks. And up in Kirknewton Churchyard, there's a row of white graves. One flying instructor. About 15 pilots who all crashed and died whilst learning to fly planes to go and fight in the war. And they were flying out from just where you can see this little shed behind me, which is now a glider club. People have been fighting and dying in this valley for almost 4,000 years. In a place that was considered sacred, where they were drawing up these great earthen banks and these ritual sites and stone circles. And 2,000 years after they were first built, there were men fighting for whose imaginary friend in the sky was better, the Christian God or the old ways. Which beggars belief. I think these sites are all amazing if you know where they are and you can go and visit them. But it's taking people to go and see them for the first time and changing their perception of the places they visit, you know. Purdy said he looked at Yeavering and it was a field, and then we went and we walked around in it and he's like, it's an interesting field. It's the most interesting field he's ever stood in. And that's kind of why we do this. So I'm about to take him and show him the recreation of this henge site, of this temple that they built, the timber henge. And it looks quite impressive from the outside. But when you stood in the middle, they've actually mapped out the processional way they think that you would have followed on the procession and everything as well. So it's all here, it's just off the side of the road. There's loads of little info boards and stuff, so if you've got tiny people with you or you've got no idea what's going on in the valley, you can come here. You don't need a guide to tell you about it, it's all written down for you, which is rather nice. We visited Yeavering. We had a look at the top field with Van Life and Betty Boondocker and those guys. Now I'm in a slightly different bit. That's Yeavering Bell behind me there. And behind those trees you can just see the corner of old Yeavering Field. But that's not what I'm looking for this time. What I'm looking for this time is the corner that Bede talked about. The corner of the river, specifically. Oh wow, look. You see that? Huge heron. Been so lucky on this episode with the amount of wildlife that we've seen. It's been absolutely incredible. Just everywhere we've gone, there's been wildlife just throwing itself at us. Haven't managed to get all of it on camera, and for that I'm sorry. If we had more rigs, more cameras, and we could get ones running all the time, we'd have caught so much more. Ducks flying off everywhere, we'd have had barn owls. We did find the goats for you, and that's quite a nice thing. But what I'm looking for now, down in this secluded little corner of the River Glen, is a very specific point. Refers to a corner coming to a beach. I'll take that. This is where Bishop Paulinus, now known as Saint Paulinus, came. He stood on the shore here. He spent 36 days staying at Gefrin, or Gefrin or had Gefrin baptizing people right here in the river. 36 days he spent baptizing converts from the Anglo-Saxon faith, followed by Penda and the other kings from down south, from the dark countries. So, where I'm stood now is the birthplace of kings. And the death of indigenous British spirituality, and an end almost to Anglo-Saxon paganism, which for me, as a follower of the old religions, is quite a bittersweet feeling, because without it we wouldn't have any of our incredible history that we do now. But we've had the Crusades, thousands of deaths. I mean, we might have still, but certainly something to think about. Especially stood right here on the edge of the glen, the birthplace of kings. Well, you know what? I'm here. Let's see if having a wash in this holy river makes a difference to this aging hippie heathen. No, now I'm just wet. I'm a little bit cleaner. Water tastes funny. Although, this has happened. The sun breaking through the cloud in a divine display. Except we know it's not really, don't we? Us rational thinking people now. We know it's just pure coincidence. Right? Look at that now. It's got nothing to do with the baptizing of one of the old faith in a holy, significant place. I think you need a bishop or a priest to make it happen. I can't just stand there and wash myself in a river and say, that's it, I forget everything I know and take this new faith. Or can you? And ultimately, does it really matter? For whatever reason, they came here for their belief in their big friend in the sky, my belief in my big friends in the sky. Does it really matter? This place behind me here, so massively significant to our history. That regardless of race or creed or colour, I think if you live in Britain or you visit Britain, you need to come here. Stand in the field, go and put your feet in the river, and understand where real British culture, not fish and chips on a Friday night, none of that, real British history started. Because before Gefrin, before Yeavering, there wasn't a Britain. There was a Northumbria, there was a Deira, there was a Mercia, Damonia, But there was no Britain. There wasn't one organised place, ever. But now, thanks to the Bishop Paulinus, and Oswald and Oswy, there was a unification of tribes, bringing them all together under one banner, and ultimately becoming the nation that would stand at 1066 on the battlefield at Hastings. Ultimately becoming the nation that it would be today. And that's really quite a thought. We are back at Yeavering, walking the King's Field again. But this time, I've been up here and looking down from above, not just aerial photos, actual real eyes on the ground, and I've never felt more connected to the place. It's never made as much sense to me as it has from the top of that hill looking down now and seeing the outline of the buildings and the layout. It all suddenly makes a crazy sense. And I'm going to have to come back here over the coming years. Been down to the river where Saint Paulinus, baptised all those people. I've stood up at the top of the hill where the Votadini made their settlement, when there's a Neolithic burial cairn. There's 2,500 to 3,000 years easily of history in this valley. And I'm only brushing the surface in this episode. We're going to have to come back. College Valley needs an entire episode on its own. This field, with enough markers and people to stand around in it. God, if you traced every year that this had been occupied, and every usage and every iteration, there's 2 hours worth. Easily. So don't worry, we will be coming back. And with the sun setting here, having stood and looked down on this field, I feel so a part of this landscape in a way that I didn't really expect to be possible when I started this project. I'm now standing where the nation of Britain was born. I'm standing right where our first kings were crowned and named, where Christianity had its, mainstream acceptance, where the warring tribes came together. This is the beginning of Britain, right here. And it's the beginning of so much more than that. Because right where I'm standing now may well have been the beginning of the greatest story that's ever been told in our language. Because where I'm stood right now, or thereabouts, is the spot that the amphitheatre sat on, where the bards would stand and address and the royals would stand and address. So perhaps right where I'm standing right now is where a nation first heard those incredible opening lines. What? Or maybe, if it was written up here, Hawaii. Here, listen. We have heard of the thriving of the throne of Denmark and how folk kings flourished in former days, how those royal aethelings earned their glory. Of course, I'm talking about Beowulf, this amazing Anglo-Saxon poem that's captivated the minds of so many down the generations, to be retold in every era, in animation, in digital. We don't talk about that one, but it was told maybe right here, 1300 years ago, right on this spot. And as a storyteller, I can't not be excited about that. As a fan of the Anglo-Saxon dynasty and loving the history of it, I can't not be excited about the fact that right now I'm walking through the Palace of Kings. Oswald Yeavering, maybe once upon a time, stood right where I'm standing. I have a replica of his sword in my house. The Vodadini, the tribe at the top of the hill in early Iron Age. Again, it's a period that fascinates me. I don't care who you are or where you're from. If you want to really feel the start of history, the start of Britain, you need to come here. Start so much. And maybe, just maybe, it's the start of something else as well. Because there's one or two folklorists. And maybe, just maybe, it's the start of something else as well. Because there are a couple of people with a theory about another famous king. Not Hrothgar, not Beowulf, but one's name who's probably more well known. I'm probably more well known for being in Devon and Cornwall. Or possibly Wales. But it's said that King Arthur's first battle was fought at the confluence of the River Glen and Till. And that river behind me was the River Glen. And over in that valley there, beyond this castle, is the River Till. And some people are now saying that maybe, just maybe, Arthur was a Northumbrian king. And as a folklorist and storyteller, this is something that I cannot pass up. We're going to go and have a look. So, yeah, we've just crossed the Glen again. So where these two rivers meet, is somewhere in this plain on our right hand side now, but the problem is I've looked on the map and it's a kilometre from any road. The sun's setting fast. We do not have the time in this episode to keep chasing and go and find it. Unless we can find it today, it's just going to be an unanswered question, because the episode goes live in 26 hours. I wish I found out about this Arthur thing before, because I absolutely adore the Arthurian legends. And knowing that, okay, it's a real outside chance, but there is this argument that he was a Roman that turned British in 5th, 6th century. I think the Keira Knightley and Thingy film picked up on that one. There's a legend that he was from Wales, there's a legend he's from Cornwall, there's a Scottish legend, you have Arthur's seat at the top, so why not? Why not a Northumbrian Arthur? And wouldn't that be amazing? The problem is, there's very little written about it. There's just a couple of historians that say it might be a thing, and this coincidence that the Glen and the Till meet where his first battle was, on a big floodplain next to where there have been so many huge battles before, Homildon and Yeavering, lot. It's tantalisingly plausible. And the thing is, even if we find the join in the river, it doesn't mean that we're going to get a confirmation of whether the Arthur myth stems from here. But it'd be nice just to know that we've found the place. And I guess if we run out of time, well, we'll just have to come back again. Got a straight block of trees, which is these on our left immediately. Yeah. And then cross block of trees, which we want to back. Yeah.
Yep.
And then the power lines,
Yeah.
which are behind another block of trees behind New Newark. Those power lines.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's it. Crossing our field. See the sandbar in between the trees. That's possibly Arthur's first battleground. Which means I've got more looking at it, more exploring to do. But you know what? As an armchair military historian, for certainly late Anglo-Saxon and into 14th, 15th century, that looks like a battlefield to me. It's cut off on two sides from the retreat by rivers.
Very far.
And it's really flat, with no high ground advantage. And at the time my archery was in its own.
Yeah.
That's more plausible than you. That's what about the ground. Bring me along.
We're going to get on come on.
Dude, this is the brilliant thing about this. This is the great thing about myth and legend and history is nobody knows. Until somebody can say definitively there or then, nobody knows. Nobody knew where Yeavering was until somebody accidentally found it flying over. Nobody knew that there was a settlement on top of Yeavering Bell until somebody tripped over it and went, oh, settlement there. Nobody knew Furling's Longhouse was there, or farm or settlement, until it was found. So, until we find absolute concrete proof that Arden is a real man, then what can't we have anything?
I think you have quite good people. And you're going to think of able to well, but that's good. We need a jump in.
Well, that brings us really, truly to the 11th hour. It's 6 o'clock. This video needs to be uploaded at 8 o'clock tomorrow night.
You've got a lot of edits.
But I think we're driving home on the home.
Yeah.
The problem is now we've found Arthur here. Where was his castle? Where was Camelot? Where was Merlin's tower?
We're not sure what the hill for.
Now, Lancelot we know from some later edition, but what about Gawain and all the names within it? They all start to make some sort of sense with a correct. urban legend, and I thought that would be fun. Let's go and look. It's going to mean doing more research and coming back here again. I think it's a plausible start to Northumbria now. The band music we got. And start through these wonderful Christian kings we now portray.
Yeah.
Just in a river that flows out where St. Paulinus, Bishop Paulinus baptized everybody. Like Christian kings were the first thing, like the first Christian kings of Britain. And be lovely. It was true. It's a legend. One hell kind.
That's a good question. No doubt about that. I was going to say, where do we have a spiritual holy island nearby? Oh, wait!
And does that mean then, because supposedly you can see Avalon from Camelot,
Yes!
would that maybe, just maybe, make the 9th century castle that was built at Bamborough
Yeah!
Camelot?
That's not bad, actually.
No,
Because it does go that far back. It's old enough.
so-
It goes back to Davington Bay.
Well, you know what, that's something that we're just going to have to look at next time.
Yeah.
Because next episode, we're going to Bamborough. And now we're going to have to
And other things, this isn't just going to turn into a crazy chase for Arthur and Northumberland. Separate.
Oh yeah.
Special feature and 3 week episode. Putting Arthur and Northumberland.
I'm really, really good at that. Guys, if you're watching this and you love the Arthurian myth and legend and you're in the Northeast, let me know, because I think this is something really cool. As a storyteller and as somebody who loves their folklore and loves myth and legend, the fact that there might be a Northumberland link to Arthur, this is something you can't pass up on. I think this would be a really cool piece to actually go ahead and research and put some sort of academic line on it. But I think we probably found well, you know what there is that to say? And said, see you about it.